What's your cheer-up story? When life has got you down in the dumps, it's kicking you between the legs with both feet, is there a tale that you turn to for comfort? Maybe you like comedy. You watch old episodes of Whose Line Is It Anyway? Because, hey, if you could laugh once, well, that'd be a win. Or maybe you prefer nostalgia. You reach for a book from your childhood. The Giving Tree, for example. Because, hey, it could always be worse. You could be best friends with a selfish little who just takes and takes from you until you're nothing but a stump. But for me, when I'm feeling depressed, I rewatch The Grey. The Grey is a 2011 thriller / monster movie / nature survival flick based on a short story written by Ian Mackenzie Jeffers, who co-wrote the screenplay with director Joe Carnahan. It was a moderate hit at the box office and received positive, but not overwhelmingly positive reviews. More on that later. Liam Neeson plays John Otway, a man hired by oil companies to protect their workers from wolf attacks. We don't see him as a particularly happy man, having frequent flashbacks to his wife who left him. They don't spell it out, but it's pretty obvious that she's dead, deceased. She's rung down the curtain and joined the choir invisible.
This is an ex-wife.
On the last day of his tour, Otway's sadness has reached its peak, so much so that he gets down on his knees and puts his mouth over the barrel of his rifle. You know, not a lot of guys can do that. But a last-second wolf howl changes his mind. Cock-a-doodle-doo! The following day, Otway and his co-workers embark on a plane ride home, a trip that I have no doubt will go smoothly. This is one of the best plane crash scenes that I have ever seen. It starts with turbulence, ignorable, but as our rough oil rig types begin to get nervous, so do we. The turbulence builds and builds, and then they're fine. Though their cold exhales are somewhat unsettling, the plane is flying smoothly. Smooth enough, at least, for pleasant dreams. What a clever way to show not only that Otway is being ripped from his dream, but that the violence in which it happens indicates to us that something is very wrong. As a dude with flight anxiety, I don't love rewatching this scene, but I do love Otway's reaction to the situation. The man who not 24 hours earlier was seconds from ending his own life is now strapping himself down, reaching for the oxygen mask. You know, fighting to add like a 0.01% chance of not going to the afterlife. But luckily for Otway, he's Liam Neeson, and this entire film was sold to us on the premise of guy from Taken fistfights wolves. More on that later. Otway searches the wreckage, finding a few survivors and one badly injured man.
You're gonna die. That's what's happening.
Bedside manner. In all seriousness, this scene is so well done.
It'll slide over you. It'll start to feel warm. Nice and warm.
It's the type of death scene that you would expect to find in like a serious war movie or a gripping, grounded drama.
Let your thoughts go. Oh, look at things. Yeah. Who do you love? Let her take it then.
Given to a character with like 10 times this dude's screen time. Beautifully acted, it's beautifully written, unlike some death scenes.
My father's work is done.
And guess what? This isn't even the best death scene in the movie. Heck, you can make an argument, a subjective one, that this isn't even in the top 3 best death scenes in the movie. And this idea of letting your loved one carry you home as you pass, that is some excellent foreshadowing for one of those great deaths later on. So, with one less survivor, our crew is down to 7. Otway, Diaz, Talgett, Henrik, Flannery, Burke, Hernandez. And they've got a lot to contend with. First of all, the cold, which was conveyed brilliantly by that old director's trick of filming in the frickin' cold. And then there's the men themselves. When Otway finds Diaz looting the bodies, it causes a bit of tension.
I'm gonna start beating the shit out of you in the next 5 seconds.
And last, but not least, something might be lurking in the dark.
What is it?
Got chills, man. Not from the weather.
Don't move.
Jesus Christ.
The men trade off on watch duty, and Hernandez, presumably after catching too many water Pokemon, has to take a leak. The opening wolf attacks in this movie are okay. It'd be my first criticism, though it's a minor one. They're too Jason Bourne-ish. They're too shaky, which was common for action films at the time. But later on in the movie, when they are filmed more landscape or slower or even just implied, I think they're much more effective. The next day, the men strategize. Otway believes that they're in the wolves' territory, and the animals are threatened by their presence. They collect the wallets of the fallen for their families and decide to make for the nearest tree line. The old Winnipeg March. Unfortunately, Flannery didn't watch enough nature documentaries to know that it doesn't end well for the herd member that lags behind, and so we're down to 5. This campfire scene, there's technically 2 of them, but they're back to back. They're over 20 minutes long, but they're so well done. There's great character moments, there's great tension, and it has the best jump scare in the movie.
I'm sorry.
I'm not really a big fan of jump scare heavy horror movies, but I love when they're done well in non-horror films.
Haven't seen your black ass in ages.
I mean, if the situation is horrific, then use the tools of that genre to convey it. What else is great about this scene? There's lots of swearing.
Son of a bitch.
I like it because rough gentlemen would use rough language. That is how they would speak. You know, censoring it, making them clean up their dialogue, it's not like it would ruin the movie, but it would just take away a little spice, you know? It'd be slightly less great. I don't like censorship. It's one of my issues with YouTube. Oh, and the sound design. It is great throughout the whole movie, but in this scene specifically, they do a lot with what you can't see. There's a fight amongst the wolf pack that is done almost entirely with sound. And like I said earlier with the wolf attacks, sometimes something is more effective when you can only imagine what it looks like. This is also when our characters get to exist outside of the story. They get to tell some jokes, they have some conversations about God or death or family.
She does this thing, she'll come and hover over me. I'll just be dead asleep. And she'll start swinging her head back and forth, tickling me with her hair all in my face. And laughing like crazy.
This is where we get to know what's important to them.
I just want to fuck one more time.
Come on, Otway. That's your cue. You're gonna have to take one for the team.
I just can't go out on that last piece of horrible ass that I had, you know what I'm saying? 53-year-old hooker. She was 250, 260. That alone is worth the fight. That's worth the fight.
Liam Neeson is the star of the show, and deservedly, he's amazing in this movie. But Frank Grillo is a close second. He really makes Diaz come to life. While learning about the other guys, Otway tells a story about his own father, a cold, emotionally detached man. But he does remember a poem that he had in his office.
Once more into the fray. Into the last good fight I'll ever know.
Oh God, this simple poem combined with the imagery and Neeson's voice and especially the music.
Live and die on this day. Live and die on this day.
I'm not smart enough to tell you why it hits me so hard, but I don't know, have you ever had that? Have you ever just sat in a theater and you're just so affected by what's happening on screen that it weighs you down in your seat? And not in a bad way, but just like you just need time to sit with it. Anyway.
Too much emotion makes Dr. Scudworth uncomfortable.
Sadly, Burke, who's been coughing and struggling this whole time, doesn't make it through the night, and the 4 survivors find themselves at the edge of a cliff. This is my second criticism of the movie. The CGI, and this sequence in general. Too fantastical. It doesn't look real. The distance they have to jump is too far, and the one-handed grab is too movie-ish. It's too unrealistic. It's a scene that belongs in the nature survival adventure film that the trailer sold us on, but the actual movie is more grounded than that. The characters are more grounded. The dialogue and performances are more grounded. The terror and action are more grounded. And now Talget is more grounded. Now, remember that scene earlier where Talget was talking about his daughter's hair? Look at this goddamn transition. Cinema. Now, if you'll allow me to misquote the Riddler, not that Riddler. That death scene was good. This one's better. After hurting his leg in the jump, Diaz, exhausted, throws in the towel.
Forget it. Whatever I had in the tank, I used back there. I'm beat.
Sitting down to wait for the inevitable. But at least he picked a nice spot for it.
Turn around and look at that. I feel like that's all for me.
The writing here is brilliant. It's believable. It's not rushed. And there's a great callback to Diaz's GPS watch that he found. You'd think it'd be a Chekhov's gun, right? Like they brought it up, so it has to work eventually. Maybe it'll save some of them. No, it just never works. I love that. And then there's the men introducing themselves by their first names, which is a great moment. And the way this scene is composed, it's wide shots. There's no close-ups. Again, I'm not smart enough to tell you why that works so well, but it does. Maybe it's because it feels like we're observing a situation as opposed to watching a performance. I don't know. I just like it. It's beautiful. And we know what happens to him. We hear the wolf growls. But we don't see it. And it's great.
Our trio's down to 2.
Oh.
Damn, that was fast. Death is so brutal in this movie. It's so pointless. It's so bad luck driven. It could almost be a Final Destination film, but you know, where like Death uses wolves. And Otway is powerless to help Henrik. His foot's trapped under the water as he slowly drowns. He drowns staring at and inches away from the very air he needs to survive.
It's the most brutal thing ever. Brutal, brutal.
Otway now, the sole survivor, rests for a moment, pleading with God.
Show me something real. I need it now, not later. No.
But it's somewhat of a one-sided conversation.
Fuck it. I'll do it myself.
God, great scene. This film does a decent amount of philosophical exploration on themes such as mortality and nature, and as showcased here, the concept and role of God. And one of the things I think that showcases how well it handles it is that you can find people who would swear on their child's life that this is firmly a religious movie. And then you can also find people like me who would swear on their Nicolas Cage pillow that this is a pure atheism film. And both of us would have solid arguments. Remember when films didn't spell out their themes to you, but treated you like an adult, capable of conversation and nuance? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Does anyone even remember Pepperidge Farm remembers? Otway stumbles through the woods like a zombie, and reaching his own breaking point, piles the wallets of his friends together. They call that the capitalist Inukshuk. We see a sad montage of the fallen's photos, of the people they loved. Poor Diaz doesn't have one. And Otway has the letter from his wife, which he might have read one final time had he not suddenly realized where he was. He's in the wolves' den. This entire time, he's been leading the survivors towards death, not from it. And now he's surrounded. With the weight of his failure, physical exhaustion, grief, hyperthermia, starvation, sleep deprivation, all of it pressing down on his back, Otway tapes up a few smashed bottles to his knuckles and prepares to go once more into the fray, into the last good fight he'll ever know. And then it cuts to black. The end. Tony Soprano would be proud. You're
are a few films with a higher rating than The Gray.
I just can't. I can't. The music, the death scenes, the dialogue, the characters, the performances. Especially Neeson, he's so good in this movie. Like, this has gotta be in my top 20 films of all time. And with some of those choices, when folks don't agree, you know, I get it. Sick isn't for everybody. But this movie is as objectively amazing as something subjective can be. So why the average rating? When it comes to reviews of The Gray, there are two recurring issues that I see from people who don't like it. The first is that the movie wasn't what you expected. You wanted the guy from Taken punching wolves in the face. A ridiculous, Deep Blue Sea style, fun, action-packed adventure starring the man who fires sea monsters.
Release the Kraken!
And if back in 2011 you saw the trailer for this movie, that's a very fair expectation. The movie wasn't billed as a somber meditation on nature and struggling to survive in the face of certain death. A story whose premise is Liam Neeson fights wolves. It shouldn't be this serious, but that's part of what makes it so great. The second type of people who don't seem to like this movie are wolf biologists, both literal and aspiring. There are so many negative reviews of this film based on the claim that the wolves' behavior is unrealistic, or worse, demonizing, it's harmful. Now look, I love wolves. My favorite book series is the Belgariad. My favorite Warhammer army, Space Wolves. And since I was 5 years old, I've always maintained the opinion that that bitch Red Riding Hood had it coming. If somebody walks away from this movie having their mind changed to, "Oh, wolves are evil, let's kill all the wolves," well then they didn't have much of a mind to begin with. This isn't National Geographic, okay? The wolves represent different things to different people. I've seen people say that the wolves represent grief, in that the more you run away from it, the worse things get for you. I've heard others say that the wolves represent death, or Satan. I'm sure there's a guy out there who could explain to you in vivid detail how the wolves represent third wave feminism. And that guy is me. So, can you imagine? But to me, the wolves represent wolves.
Well,
they are nature. Not to sound like Werner Herzog, but a nature that has no empathy.
There is some sort of a harmony. It is the harmony of overwhelming and collective murder.
And if the movie is about humans struggling to survive in indifferent and dangerous nature, well then you need nature to be dangerous. Maybe even to a hyperbolic degree. But I also don't think the perils of nature is what the movie is really about. At least not on its own. If one is to judge meaning from art based on the emotion it invokes, well, this movie invokes a lot of emotions. Laughter, awe, the urge to never get on a plane again, dread, lots of dread. But the one that squeezes the air out of my lungs, the one that makes my eyes water, the one that I alluded to earlier, that weighs me down in my chair, is keep fighting. In the campfire scene, Otway instructs the other men to hold on to what they love. In his own words,
"What's next in your life, whatever they might be, make you want that next minute more than the last. Make you fight for it."
He comforts the dying man in the same way.
Who do you love?
But holding on to love isn't bringing Otway any comfort. If anything, it's the thing that makes him want to give up. He has no reason to wrestle this hard for his life. But he still does. Surrounded by death, something drives him forward. And when tragedy occurs, keep fighting. Monsters in the dark, keep fighting. Disease, fatigue, bad luck, you lost your friends, you lost all hope, you've lost your faith, you're broken down, trapped in a hell of your own creation with zero chance of survival. Otway keeps fighting. Got a poem stuck in his head. Does he win? Doesn't matter. It's not about the result. It's not about the action. It's about the continuous decision to take action, even when you got nothing left. Now like and subscribe. That's where you used to be. That's right, that's where you used to be before we stripped you of all your ferociousness. We selectively bred you. Yes, we did. That's eugenics. Rawr.